Yeah. So you just pulling your desktop audio into StreamYard, or are you and your mic as well? Are you using the same mic input for both? Yeah. This is awesome. You're solving a problem I need to solve for tomorrow, so I appreciate it. Yep. Beautiful.
It's like the lowest tech way to.
Mhm. You added the audio. Yeah, that's Joe testing. Yeah, that's Joe testing. So the way you have it set up, Patrice, it will stream the desktop audio from this call. So my audio came through, but yours is muted because you have your mic input muted on StreamYard. So everything you're saying is not coming through on a live, but we hear you here. So yeah, I only have you, or I only have me coming through, but not you on the audio.
But now we can hear me. I'm just a little audio blur off to the side now. Because if you check out a screen
Yeah,
share,
you did that fixed it. Yep.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah, when we're screen sharing, then I have to add myself as like a person.
Check out my screen share. You did that fixed it.
There we go. Cool. Well, it's going to be janky and the display isn't great, but we are officially, for the first time ever in school history, as I'm aware, live streaming a school call to YouTube and having the audio come through. I guess it'd be cool to have. Basically, I'd have to have myself join as a guest maybe instead of being on my computer, and then that solves it. Where I don't have to have like a second window off to the side. But we were talking about my headphones crapping out. My wireless ones stop having the microphone connect, and then these ones make me sound like I'm at the bottom of a cave every once in a while. So we definitely need to hit a big school payout to make some affiliate income to buy some new tech, so we can make some more affiliate income. Well, today's episode was for engagement cohorts. Thanks for joining us, Joe, Sarah, and Tammy. It's the first time ever I'm doing just like a open call for anyone to join, and I'll like pre-selecting guests ahead of time. So it's great that I've got 4 guests here, which is usually, or 3 guests here for 4 of us, which is usually what we do. So that's awesome. I made an introduction post in the community for Joe yesterday. He's going to be sharing all of his secrets with us today. And so I'm just going to shut up for the rest of today's call, and Joe's going to be running the whole thing.
I don't know what secrets I have on engagement other than how to not do it. I mean, if you look at the analytics of my community, like my engagement's driven to 0, but in some ways that's by conscious choice of just focusing on other verticals in my business and kind of building the right ecosystem around my school community of different products, and then also building the team to then scale engagement. So there's a lot of hacks you can do to make a community vibrant that I had working well from like the March to June timeframe. And then I literally stopped doing all of that once I'd made, I think I got up to 600 MRR. I had at least 6 paying members. Some of them are scaffolded on monthly. And then I had 2 members join annual at 900 each, and then I stopped everything. and said time to scale the team around it. So my engagement's at 0. So I don't know if that starts the dialogue well, or what specific questions you would have in those spaces, Patrice. But a lot of it is just continuing to ask, like, what's in it for people, like what's motivating them to engage or want to be active. And if you're not providing that, then you shouldn't expect people to pull their focus from family, career, all the other social medias to show up and engage, which is a lot of like the mistakes I made early on as well. But yeah, I'll pause with that context to see what you're curious about. And Tammy, it's nice to meet you. I don't know if I've ever crossed paths with you on Skool, but I'm Joe. I have a community of like 250 unengaged people called the Big Brain Club, where I help people build the life they desire, living where they want, loving what they do, and being paid well for it once I scale a team around them to help them actually do that. And then I do surgical robotics, and I've worked in that industry for like a decade. So I do high ticket consulting. I have a keynote in Switzerland in a couple weeks, and I do like brand consulting and content creation. So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I came from Sarah's group, so I was here to listen, I guess.
Excellent.
He was the first
It's
time
nice to
meeting
meet you though,
Tammy as
face to
well.
face, Tammy. Like I don't know if we've met each other on a call actually yet. So like welcome, and I'm so stoked that you're here.
Is
Yeah,
that
Sarah's
the
fantastic.
engagement tip I'm using for the School Friends Live is to bring the guests in the community and tell them to post about the podcast they're going to be on in their own community, and that brings their community over here. So we're not trying to sell anything or monetize. We're just trying to have conversations. So it's like, yeah, I want to come hear about Joe or Sarah or Tammy and this other light, not necessarily nested under the community, right? So I guess then Joe gave the context for his community, his background. I'm coming from the operator perspective. So I run a 10,000 member community in the money category. And money category is a bit difficult, I want to say, for engagement, because it's like, well, they're there, they come in, they make money, they don't want to be posting, they don't want to be commenting, they don't want to be doing that stuff. So it's a little bit of a more of a challenge to create that culture of engagement and connection on Skool, which is what it's for, as opposed to something like the hobby category. You come into something and everyone's a beekeeper, and we're all beekeepers, and it doesn't matter that we're on other sides of the planet, right? So I think that's my angle I'm coming in. It's been on my mind lately about like, we just crossed the 10K. How do I make it so that's at least like 5,000 members that are active and actually participating and doing stuff, not what feels like a ghost town, because most people are lurkers anyway, right? So that's like kind of the premise of today's conversation. It was also Marcin a couple weeks ago, or a few weeks ago now. He made a post saying we're going to talk about this in the future. So I was like, well, I guess we got to talk about it in the future. I guess. Hey, Sarah, I'm not hearing you. Is anyone else having trouble hearing her?
No.
You can't hear me at all?
Yeah, I can hear you now. For some reason, you started talking and I just couldn't hear you. Here we go.
Maybe my internet is laggy.
Must be me. 2 screens.
I might challenge you on that, Pat.
We were about to say
Like
something.
I fully believe that you can have a community in the money category and talk about money, but also have an actual like vibrant community of people that like to talk to each other and hang out.
And I agree. That's why the conversation today is like framed around that, about like, how do we do it on Skool for any type of community? But like specifically, that's where I'm coming from in my challenge, because I know it's doable. But I've been saying this for like a year now. It's like, why are we on Skool? The offer we have, the product we have, the service we deliver, the thing that we could do to be done anywhere. Why are we on Skool? Payment processing is awesome. Notifications is awesome. The Skool network is awesome. Like, obviously we're on Skool for a reason. At its core, it's for community. And I find that the money categories are the ones that have the most challenge when it comes to like creating meaningful engagement and connection. Not the cheesy comment keyword and reply, like you're forcing it almost, right? Whereas like in like Skool Friends as an example, I came in, I looked in, and there was notifications from 2 of my friends talking to each other in the comments, and I didn't have to do anything to make that happen. But it's because, you know, in Skool Friends, everybody's a schooler. We're all active and engaged in like on Skool, so we know, post, comment, engage in each other. It doesn't matter what space we're in, right? Whereas for other communities that are not necessarily like school centric, people are not on Skool all the time. Maybe they're only there for that community. How do you get them to like actually engage? A good example of this. So I'm operator for Google Ads Masterclass. We just crossed 10,000 members. Goosify just crossed 10,000 members. Both of us started roughly around the same time. Both of them were in the 100. Both of them crossed 10K around the same time. Goosify has like 3,000 members online at any given time. We've only ever got like up to 200 online at any given time. When you look at the actual activity and the engagement in the communities, obviously it's super clear. Goosify is blowing up because everybody's a schooler active on there. Whereas Google Ads, everybody's a business owner. They come in, they learn Google Ads. Well, now they're on Google Ads and they're running Google Ads for their business. They don't necessarily come back to make friends and talk to other business owners that are doing Google Ads, right? So that's where I agree with you. I don't think it's impossible. I like that you're challenging me. I think it's totally doable. It's just like, that's the conversation today is what are some ways to do it that are not the cheesy comment keyword to do this. And like, I think there's some things we could do a step beyond being like, hey, Sarah, this is Tammy. I think you guys would really hit it off, and tagging you guys in a comment and forcing you to have that conversation. Like, I think that's a more natural way to do it rather than comment keyword and blah, 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 because that's just one and done. But I think there's more of an organic way to get Sarah and Tammy to want to talk to each other when they come to the community, right? And I think that's kind of the conversation for today. We could also take a huge step back and ask if anybody actually understands what the engagement cohort chart looks like, which is the thumbnail for the live stream. Like, anybody know how it actually works? Like, what is it?
I just want to add, because I'm kind of a little bit on the edge. I deal in the quantum space, and the stories that we tell ourselves create our reality. So if you're telling yourself that you can't get connection in the money category because that's what everyone is saying, that is the reality you are going to experience. There are a gazillion possibilities in reality. So if you start changing your story that it's easy to find a way to do this, you'll start to see the solutions that are there that you can't see because you're telling yourself that they're not.
Right, I appreciate that, Tammy. That's the point of the conversation too, is having that shift of like, I know it's possible. It's just I think I'm coming at it from the angle of the facts of like, I look at the categories and you can see like, it's fact. Money categories are more challenged when it comes to engagement. If you look across the statistics of Skool, right? It just is what it is because they make more money and they make way more money than more of the other school communities on the school games, right? But the engagement factor, I think at its core, it's tying it around that principle of the community that actually ties people together, right? And it's partly how you're framing it for people coming in. Like, how are they finding the community? What are they seeing on the About page when they come in? What's that experience like before they ever get that auto DM or anything like that? What are they seeing on the outside and what are they seeing initially? I think that has a huge impact on it, which is why the money categories struggle more, because it's not like the spiritual beekeeping is a good example that they had last week as a community, right? Beekeeping, very niche, spiritual, usually pretty niche, combine the two, super niche, right? And so that means that they come in, even if it was spiritual beekeeping and the focus was for them to sell their honey and make some money, the spiritual beekeeping aspect is still what anchors everybody, right? And again, this is me talking out my butt here. I want to hear from you guys, like, not specific to the money category, just like on Skool in general for yourself. Like, I find myself coming back to certain communities more often than others. I find myself coming to different communities for different reasons, right? Not necessarily going to the communities that are in the money category to engage with fun topics, right? So that's why I'm curious to hear your guys' experience. Like, what have you done in your own spaces that has actually like worked, that you felt good about, they felt good about? Or maybe what are some things you guys have seen in other spaces that you're like, yeah, that's really neat. Like I highlighted before Jack's purge that he did in his schoolyard community. We had that on a previous episode. I thought that was really cool. Like, it was, I'm away for Christmas. I don't want to take any action. You guys can post to do whatever you want here. Huge influx of engagement, bunch of referrals. Like, it was crazy, crazy, crazy. And then the next day it all kind of went away and then went back to normal community. But doing like a pop-up event like that, I thought was really cool. So that's my example. I'm curious to hear from you guys. Like, what are some things that have gotten you to engage where you're like, you're not doing it because someone asked you, or you're like, I want to be a good friend and engage in their community because they're new on Skool, but like something that actually like draws you in to want to post or want to comment or do it regularly.
I think and this will kind of build, I think, on what Tammy shared a little bit. The comparison that you're making isn't always serving you. Like money is a category, and sure you can compare yourself to these other players in that group, but there's no reason why you couldn't differentiate the value of your community because it is an actively engaged group that also is building wealth. It's a matter of what you put in the onboarding and the experience that members navigate and what determines the likely success of their outcomes. If the outcome's based on them getting the right knowledge they need and just going out and doing it, then engagement doesn't serve that value prop at all. And you could just operate this off a website. You don't need to be on Skool, as you kind of mentioned.
Mhm.
You can still host it on Skool for other efficiencies with like churn reduction and stuff like that. But engagement isn't something you need to be optimizing for then. And you should just not bother comparing yourself to what a community should or shouldn't be on this platform if you're making cash. But the other side is if you could reevaluate the user experience from coming into proximity with your funnel, going through a webinar, getting to a point of purchase, jumping in, and what that journey looks like. Does accountability or having a network of 5 to 10 people they could actively be DMing in a challenge-based journey serve them or accelerate their results? If the answer is yes, then you should be optimizing for engagement. But you need to make a 10,000 person community feel like a 25 person community. You need subgroups and you need to select people and pair them together and do some matchmaking based on where they're at in the journey, where they're going. So that you're either in like a similar cohort or you have someone ahead and someone behind in a mentorship continuum that might not exist in the offer you make today. And would that detract from the value other business owners get, or does it add to it? So like, I think you need to figure out the why before you figure out the mechanism to create it, because otherwise it's these one-off pop solutions of we did a couple posts this way, engagement shot up and then it died. Or is this truly baked into the process? And like for me, engagement is baked into the process, but also I have to bring up a team to carry the engagement, which is why the process stopped where my chokehold in the business is. But there's tons of hacks and systems and process you could build around it to have the most engaged financial community on Skool if that enhances the journey. So I'll kind of pause there. But that would be my initial thoughts on what you're navigating. And then the implementation is dependent on what your like key performance metrics are that you're measuring for the outcomes, whether you're looking at churn, if there's an ascension process that you want people to navigate, and a lot of other factors of like word of mouth referrals is another one, and affiliates, how you're driving people back in. Is engagement a lever that helps any of those outcomes or not? And then you should optimize for that.
I mean, I think you made a good point there first too, which is like, I didn't mean to make this like all about my specific example. That's what I've been facing. So I was like,
yeah, you're fine.
My podcast, let's talk about what I want to, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to like, it's the why, like, why am I doing this? Because you see Blitz in Crucifier, they go for sports, however they organize it, it changes every once in a while, right? You see lots of workshops or challenges or pop-up events and things happen on Skool. And I think that's the crux of what makes them successful or not is the why. Like why are we doing this and what's the back end to it? I think the why to the members and the why to the business, like we said. Like why should members do this? Like what's the benefit for them? And then also in terms of the business itself, right? Like you said, if engagement doesn't lead to any of the outcomes that you want, then like why do we even care that the community is? Who cares if the community is not engaged, right? But I think that tracks back to my question there. Like why should we care if there's engagement on Skool? What is engagement? Why does it matter? It's the activity charts to get you ranked higher on Skool, so you appear higher in discovery. The most top 30 most engaged in every category get a little star beside their name. I think that's pretty cool. I want one of those one day. And then also the engagement cohorts itself in terms of like a metric, that chart that you look at that shows the 12 months or everything, it's tracking when somebody visits your community. So from anybody who joined this month, 12 months ago, if they just visited your page, didn't take any action or anything, if they were just on skool.com/your URL, that counts as an active user in your community on that chart. So those are kind of the three different things you're looking at. Was like, why would we do this? And then it just ties to, well, does any of those lead to that outcome, like you said, of more revenue or more testimonials or more whatever it is, right? And that's, I think, where that distinction, again, I'm not pressing on that as like a limiting belief, but I think that's why we see the money category struggle more in terms of engagement on Skool, because it is, the outcome is money, right? It's some sort of monetization promise. And so once that monetization promise is reached, it's the acquire the information and then you move on. You don't necessarily stay in the community unless there's a system or process or accountability or culture that ties you back to it, which is why you do see, obviously, there is a top 30 in the money category and they are super engaged. But that's kind of the difference. And it's not necessarily money specifically, that's any of the communities. Again, it's just money is the one that struggles the most because they don't have that purpose to tie to it, right?
I would reframe your language to your money community struggles with engagement. Because there are money communities that can engage. But the correlation you're trying to draw there, I think is too far out. Like it's a distraction from where are there gaps within your specific engagement that you think would improve discovery ranking, which would drive leads revenue, or it would improve downstream churn. Like if it's a problem you want to solve, then reframing the language to like my community actively struggles in these spaces. Oh, buddy. Well, thank you. Go bring that to mom. 1 second.
I have a 2 cents thought, maybe.
Yeah, you're good, Sarah.
And this will apply to anybody, right? And this goes for like small communities or big communities or anything. And I'll even quote Layla Hormozi herself, right? On the Skool Games from a year and a half ago or whenever it was. Why do you want to build on Skool? Why should any business want to create a community around what they're doing, right? Because when you start having that interaction between members and you create that web, your LTV and your LTV or whatever goes up and your churn goes down. They come for the product, they come for the results you promise, but they stay longer for the experience inside your space, right? So like it was, up here is like bad experience, bad result. You're not going to keep anybody, right? Down here is like good results, but poor experience. They'll stay long enough until they find a place with better experience happening. So over here is better experience, maybe not great results, maybe not as great of results as over here, but they will stay longer. Everybody's goal wants to be up here where it's like good experience and good results. That's when you get into that zone of people in your space telling their friends, right? They tell their friends about the results they got and how much fun or what the experience was like, right? And how much it's different than doing it on their own and that kind of thing. So that, in my opinion, is like why anybody, like any business, should strive to create a community. And if that's not your model, that's fine. But maybe, then you don't need to worry, like Joe said, about the engagement and stuff. And like he said, like for my group example, for onboarding, I don't talk about like paid stuff. I don't talk about booking a call. My whole goal in my onboarding process, first of all, my auto DM goes out. It's a yes or no question. So it's like, is this your first time? Because I help school owners, right? Is this your first time creating an online community business? Second one is, if you had a genie, what one wish, for your biz would it grant? So that opens the conversation. It's very different than a go here, do this, la, 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 direction-based guru telling you what to do, which especially for my people being neurospicy, a lot of them, somebody tries to tell them what they're to do, and they're like, fuck this shit. I'm out of here, right? Like, nah. So like opening that conversation, and then once we're done having that conversation, then I send them, hey, here's where the start here. Like, this is where you start in the community. And the first page is a short, very short walkthrough, right? Second page is showing them how to quell the notification crap, because that's a very overwhelming thing for people, especially if they're new to Skool. The third one is make a comment, because a lot of people have either static pinned posts or whatever, welcome posts. And some of them are like hundreds or thousands of comments deep. And it's going to be really hard for even like people that have been in this space. Like they kind of get like they like banner blindness to it. They're not going to go in there and like dig around in it or anything like that, unless they've got the bell toggled on. But still, like that's not really conducive to people chatting with each other or like meeting each other or starting a conversation. And I don't ask people to post anything because that's more friction. Like if you do, then kudos to you, more hats off to you. Maybe the people that you're attracting into your space are more, apt to do that. And I still have people that post when they first join, and that's fine. But I rotate my post that's pinned to that page. And it's always an easy entry. Most would call a fun post. Sometimes it's niche related, but a lot of times it's not. But it's something that a lot of people in my space, like they get in their brain, ooh, I can answer that, or I want to share something about me on this, right? So it almost provokes them and like encourages them to comment. And then because it's not hundreds of comments deep, other members that have been in there for a while are like, ooh, right? And so that almost automatically starts the connection in between the members and starts that engagement happening. So they feel really welcome. That's something a lot of people that have said to me about like, oh, this is really welcoming. Like I I don't feel weird here. Like I fit right in, this kind of thing. Like that's the kind of vibe that I'm going for, right? And then the last page, because I had a neurospicy moment some months ago, is like where to find what, because I don't put a lot of my classroom style stuff in the classroom because a lot of people just like the community tab, right? So it shows them, if you want this, here's where, and a hyperlink to where it is, right? But then once they've started commenting and then they get replies, in their notification, then they're just doomed. So that's my 2 cents. Not long story short again.
No, I like that you cut in there too, because I agree with what you're saying, Joe. Like, so what Tammy's saying at the start there with the language and everything. Like, I agree. Statistically, I've noticed that money categories are the what, right? So that's, I'm not to harp on that, but it's the same thing as like, well, it's not just the category; it's community on Skool. Everybody struggles with the same thing. What is the fundamentals of it? It's the same for everybody. And then I think the same thing, like Sarah said, large community or small community. There's 70 people in Skool Friends Live. There's 10,000 people in the free Google Ads masterclass. It's going to be different strategies and different like implementations, especially because obviously they're different communities, they're different categories, they've got different purposes, different numbers of members. But fundamentally, you get them in, you get them to engage, you tie the tethers of connection to other members, that just long term pulls it up. So I guess that's again back to the question. Sarah just gave a whole bunch of stuff that does that. Tammy, you're a member in Sarah's community. Did you speak to that onboarding? I saw you shaking your head, yes. What are some things we could absorb from that to do better in our communities?
It's been a while. I think I've been in your group for a couple of months, so I have to go back and like etch off that. It was fun. I felt seen by her description. I don't really necessarily classify as neurospicy, but like I definitely don't fit into the rules. I don't like to play by everyone else's game. That's just not me. So it fit that. So the way she structured her community made it seem like there was an aspect of fun and there was an aspect of community. I wasn't just there to learn a topic. I was there to like connect to the people that were in the group, maybe get some insight into how to run my own school group. But the conversations that are in there aren't necessarily about growing your school group. It's more about like, who are you and how do you operate, and to not disconnect from that place while building a group. So she has a layer over her school group beyond the topic, which is like the story, the underlying story that connects the community, right? That's what the community connects to, is that storyline that she's got running through the group, even though her topic is building a school group.
Like, because that speaks, I think, to what we're saying, that underpinning. Said she's got a story in the. I like that she's got a story in the community. I think that's. I think I might have heard like Matthew Thompson say something similar in School Stories before about like that thread that pulls through the community, right? It's culture, it's value, it's whatever name you want to throw at it. But I think that's what you're speaking to. Two things that I took out of what you just said, Tammy, was like, I don't know, it was a while ago, but it was fun and I felt seen. Like, I think those are the core things we want every member to come in and feel. Like, again, Google Ads example, someone comes in and doesn't actually get Google Ads and take action and do the thing, but they learn it and then they engage and have fun in the community. That's a win for them because they're engaging and having fun. It's a win for me because they're engaging and having fun, right? I would love for them to take the action of XYZ to make money, but at the core of it, I think hearing their story, where they're from, why they're trying to do the ads, that sort of stuff, I think can be huge to kind of reincorporate. I guess I was taking a step back, coming at this from like a newbie's perspective, hearing what Sarah just said, what would maybe call on Joe or I'll call on Wendy. Wendy, welcome to the call. What would maybe a new, and I don't have to throw you under the bus, but what would like a new school, what would a new schooler have to do, or what would you recommend be their process as they're like getting the community started and doing that onboarding build? Because like I think we're all in the same mindset of don't make it perfect, just start, invite people, build it as you come, you'll start to get there. That's great. Once we're on to that next step, what are the steps in between going from I just started and invited 3 people to now I've got a community like Sarah's and Tammy came in and she feels happy and seen? Like, what are some tangible action steps we can recommend some people watching that they take to kind of bridge that gap?
Hire me. Of course. Yeah, I mean, just starting it and inviting 3 people, it's keep it simple. Everybody tends to repeat the same mistakes we've seen over the past couple of years we've been here, myself included, right? And Ryan and Jason were both talking about the about page and not starting the about page with welcome to my community, because that's valuable real estate that's wasted with that one sentence. But basically, don't be trying to add value. I'm constantly reminding people that this isn't social media, because someone yesterday told me he just started his community. He's like, okay, I'm posting twice a day. And I was like, whoa, you haven't invited anyone yet. The people are going to be completely overwhelmed. So it has to be uncomfortably simple to create the space for people to enjoy. And I've repeatedly made this mistake, right? With too confusing, too much stuff. It's because you're so excited and you just want it to go and grow. And you're like, here, how about this and this and this and this? And we're like, so that's it. Just keep putting the brakes on. It's like you want to drive fast, you want to keep adding value, and you want to try all these things that you're seeing all over school, and you want to be where the schoolers you see are, but they didn't get there overnight either, right? So take a breath, smile, and enjoy what you've got growing. The growing process, nice and slow growing. Make it a slow cooker, right? Right, Sarah? I see you nodding your head.
Well, like
Yeah, I'm totally team like grow slow, and like when Joe and I were talking about earlier, like when you start having to like go fast because you've put a time frame on how something should happen, or when you need to make money, or this and that and the other, then that leaks through in your messaging and in your content, and you're going to push away the people that you can actually help, but they don't resonate with that specific energy, right? So, like, if you have to get a different, like, part-time job, or you have to go do something else while you're simultaneously building this dream thing that you're building, then do that. And, like, the thing I forgot, I think, to mention with my onboarding, like, I'm a big proponent of, like, it's just, like, the whole point of my onboarding flow is for engagement. I don't talk about paid stuff. I don't, like, ask people to book a call with me. I don't do anything. Like, I want people to get in and start plugging in with other people and get their feet wet, and then they can get to know me a little bit. And then, and I'm not like a big pushy salesperson anyway, but like they'll start seeing something in a post every once in a while, like, oh, we're doing this month, or, oh, this is, the offering, whatever. But it's not like, that's not the whole goal of my space. And it kind of like, and I know I operate differently than a lot of people, right? And I don't have all these frameworks and all this other stuff. but it actually is still working, right? And that's the beauty of Skool. Like, you can do things so many different ways, right? As long as you keep going and you keep it simple and you take messy AF action and then evaluate and refine, you will make it if you don't give up, right? But it's just, it is. I will echo that and keep it simple. It's definitely a thing.
Right. I like what Wendy said there too, is we've all made those same mistakes, because I think it's the if anyone hasn't seen the image from the Skoolers rise from being a monkey to wearing the wizard hat and having the torch in your hand, that's a good image to go find. We all have to go through the same phases. We all got to make the same mistakes, and it doesn't matter what the size of your community. Everybody started with one member, them, clicking the link and opening up the community with nothing in it. And then maybe you've got some money and you hired somebody like Wendy, and she comes in and she starts setting stuff up for you. Or maybe you go in and you do it yourself slowly, and you do like Wendy's client was saying there, and he's posting, I'm doing 2 posts a day, and then you realize, oh wait, no one's seeing them because there's no one in the community, and this isn't like other social media, and you kind of go through all those growth stages. I think what you said too, we're in the exact phase right now where it's simple. But I think many communities are experiencing this, but it's like, make it more simple. Onboarding went through this whole like, gotta have the pinned post, gotta have the welcome message, gotta go this way, gotta go that way, gotta do this, gotta do that. You go into the classroom, there's a welcome package. It's got 12 steps, and it asks you to do one thing on each of the 12 steps. That's simple, right? It's only 12 things, but there's only one thing on each page, right? So it's only 12 minutes of videos to watch. Well, it's literally 60 seconds and the person's never coming back, right? And now it's come to that point where it's like, exactly like Sarah said, is no, onboarding is what the Skool prompt says, which is go comment on a post. And then that starts that engagement pipeline for people, right? And kind of gets their foot in the door. I like that you're saying that. I'm still, I understand, get it. Trust me, guys, I get it. It's your culture, it's your community, it's what makes you unique. Lean into that, create a story. This is great. What are tangibles we could tell somebody who just started their Skool today, or last week, or last month, or even last year, and they're still struggling to get to that point? Like, Sarah gets a star beside her name every weekend because everybody in her community gets neurospicy and active on the weekend. And then Monday hits and we're all like, work. So we're less engaged and active. And then come Sunday,
I've
Sarah's got
actually
the
had it
star
for
again.
like 4 days now, and we're like in the middle of the week. So, and it's not
Ooh.
my star, it's my community's
It's the
star,
community
because
star.
I'm not in there all the time replying to all the things. So there's that. And I'll give you a tangible, right? So a lot of one easy thing to do is add not a CTA, a question to your post, right? And encourage your members to add questions to your posts. There are still times, there are often, in fact, I had to do it this morning. Hey, I would love to pin this awesome post you made. Can you add a question inviting the community to share their experience or their thoughts or their things, right? And then when I get somebody that sends me a question in the DM or a win, hey, you should make a post about that. Like, that would be awesome. You know, I'll share my input and everybody else can share theirs. We'd love to celebrate you and this and that and the other. Or if you find a comment buried in a subthread somewhere, would you please make a post about this so that everybody can see it? Because it's kind of buried right here, right? But just adding a question to your post is like paramount. Like, inviting the people in. And like, we like to think that, oh, it should be self-explanatory, you know, it's a community, people should want to comment. But like, again, it goes back to the basics. Sometimes humans are weird and we forget things, and we need to be not told what to do, but if somebody asks in a polite way, we're more apt to chime in, right?
Absolutely. I love that this is a conversation right now, because literally right before I'm on this call, I was streamlining one of my community's onboarding. I fixed the welcome post. There goes my internet. The welcome post, so it's all just above the fold. About to strip the start here to just a simple one question with the post clicked, 2, one question with the post connected, 3, one question with the post connected. Boom, boom, boom. I was literally just stripping it down. And that's part of the process. It's like that saying, right? I would have written you a shorter letter if I had more time. And we've learned that, all of us here, in this process that we've gone through in learning schooling. And now we're all here to help guide all of you. We grow together. I love school.
Love it. But what Sarah said too, like again, it's the tangibles about like people forget. Like if you don't add a question or add something for them to tie off somewhere in the post, you just get a cool, great, awesome. That's, I mean, not in like school specific communities, because anywhere where there's a lot of schoolers, they just engage. There's no problem. Your community, if your community is something for schoolers, you're pretty golden. Like schoolers know how to interact. But as soon as your community on Skool is not people who are just spend all day on Skool, that's when you're going to run into some problems. And it's like, well, how do we tether that engagement? You add that question, you add that point of interest for them, not a call to action, but a point of interest for them to go and engage in the comments below. One very tangible tip that I learned from Skool, or from Goose, which is not like not a very materialistic one, I guess, where it like creates a connection and like is meaningful, but people forget to add polls to their posts. You can add polls. When people vote on a poll, that creates an activity in the community, which bumps your numbers so you can go up in discovery. So that's like a tangible, mathematically, how do you get more engagement in the community so you increase in discovery on Skool? Start adding polls to your posts, even if it is just one option with a bunch of emojis like Goose used to do. That means they have to answer the poll, read the question in the post, like the post, and then answer the question in the post, and then maybe they'll go reply to other people. So a post that could have just been somebody going and, oh, that's cool, thanks, Sarah, I'm going to like it. Now they read the question, they vote on the poll, right? They like the post, and then they go comment, and then they go reply to a comment. You just turned one like into 4 activities in your Skool community. So that's like a mathematically, tangibly tied to the dashboard, increasing engagement in your community.
It's worth testing.
Yeah.
I'm team like keep it simple and like do like one one thing. Like maybe you're a crazy community. Like I could probably do that in mine and they would do all the things, right? Because like a lot of neurospicy or like even like their brains just kind of adjust to that. But like if you're a smaller community or you're just starting out, just start with the question.
Mhm.
Like add the question kind of thing. The other big tangible thing, like be human. Like think about what you do in real life. Like if you go to a party or you know whatever, we won't talk about like how you promote your school outside. Like you don't say, "Hey, come join my Skool community." That's like saying, "Hey, do you want to come see my basement?" to somebody when you're throwing a party. No, you ask them, "Hey, you want to come to the party?" Right? It's the experience. It's the result, the outcome that they want. But in real life, do you ever come up and say, "Hey, you know, I can help you with this. You should book a call with me." La la la. Like, or you just only talk about one thing in a conversation face to face with a human? Or do you talk about, "Hey, what'd you do last weekend?" Or, "Oh, I saw you went to this concert." Or, you know, la la la. Or, "I'm in a rut with my recipes for dinner. Like, anybody got a good one?" Right? So you talk about other human things in your space besides just your niche topic. That will also help people because when you start talking about that or you ask them, "Hey, I need recipes for dinner," or "I need ideas for dinner," right? And you've got people from everywhere talking about what they're doing in the comments. And then somebody else sees somebody commented this thing. "Oh, that's my favorite thing too." And la, 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 la. Like, and then you get those sub threads happening, right? That you never would have expected because it's human. We forget oftentimes when we're online that like human interaction is key and we don't need to act weird and non-human online because that's a quick way to like you know zilch your experience in your space and your engagement for sure.
Welcome to the call, Jazz, too.
Patrice, I think one thing I would add to this space is you're asking this question on engagement for like someone who's new or just getting their community started, and then your problem, you have 10,000 people, and if you think about the relative scale of that, it's the difference of walking into someone's house for a pop dinner versus walking into a stadium. And I think what a lot of growing community builders need to always be aware of it is what is the user experience coming into those different spaces feel like, and how do you make it as human and personalized as possible? Because the reality of a 10,000 person community is they are going to feel like a number or a cog, or they're going to get some AIDM auto script, and everything's just so hyper automated and out of touch that it's going to be difficult to expect that person to break their way into community, because even if they put a post out there and people engage it, what's the probability they see that person again and again and actually build a real relationship? You have to create systems and processes to make that community small for engagement to thrive in something like that. But then for someone on the front end, something I advocate for, which you all know, is like the use of Loom or some kind of asynchronous video communication tool, and to not disregard the importance of a DM before you even expect someone to step into a public space and step out and share their story. Like if you get a notification someone joins your group and then you just let them auto navigate the process, as opposed to that within 15 minutes, hey, I'm Joe, thank you so much for taking a jump in this group. And they see you wherever you are in life, in your well, not your bathroom, like in the kitchen or on a walk or whatever. So I've done this like in a basement next to a dishwasher. Yeah, you have gotten some strange ones from me when I put my kids to bed. But it's just, it makes it that much more human to that person that there's someone on the other side. And this became something that wasn't scalable for me once I got to around 200 members. So that level of engagement just tanked and died out of my community because I wasn't giving them the first touch point. And for me, my focus has been equipping a team, and the first person I want to get off the ground is someone who's in charge of that person's journey, and that first point of contact is so important before they ever enter an automated sequence. That has to feel human. Otherwise, they're not going to step out and be human in those spaces. But my community is different than your community. Everyone has a different model. I want it to feel like a full service restaurant, like high-end restaurant experience, where someone greets you while you pull up in your car and they park your car, and then they see the maitre d' checks where you are in the reservation. They bring you to a table. Like, I want the community to have those high touch points with multiple members of the team catering to them, as opposed to people feeling like they're being churned in and out when I do scale to a 10,000 person community. But it's how you build with intention from the 0 to 10,000 that I think matters, because engagement techniques need to adapt across those different scales as well.
When I'm feeling that pressure too with the specific Google Ads example, because we've got it's a freemium, so free and then paid. Paid has the monthly workshop, and then we do the high ticket in a second community, which is annual only. And so that's its own thing where we're separating. So it's obviously front end come to the free, and then we filter through. So the whole process is there. It's working great. MRR is awesome. There's people coming through. But now I'm even facing that on the other side in the paid community, where it is all people who are doing this specific program on this specific software with this specific method. They should all want to talk to each other. We do an onboarding and I encourage it, but then they start using the other software and they never come back to school because they're so busy working the program and being busy over there that we have to kind of tether them back here and remind them to engage and make a post and ask questions and communicate. So you're absolutely right that it is like our community is different than your community is different than her community is different than that community. And even for myself, we've got the 2 Google Ads communities. They're connected together. And even they are very different in terms of onboarding flow and process and the techniques we have to use, not just simply because of size and scale. It's the who we're attracting and what we're doing on the inside, right? Like I know a lot of communities previously used to not take payments on Skool. So they have this whole other separate platform to do payments and stuff like that. It's very similar when you're fractioning it out, because you got like different spaces that'll attribute things differently, right?
Yeah. I mean, for the high ticket group, if rather than expecting them to post, if you had them do one post that was their user journey with milestones they're supposed to hit, similar, because you've done the find your next post, which isn't perfect, but it works for my growth journey. If it's something that they keep going into to track financial milestones or ads they've placed, if you embed it within the Skool community itself, then you're giving them more touch points to come back and also comment on other people's techniques. They could share a video of their ad, or again, I don't know exactly what you sell in your space, right?
I'm being very not getting specific on purpose. We can share this.
Yeah, that's okay. But it's a good use case, right? Because a lot of us aspire to have larger communities down the road. I think if you embed within that the delivery process that they have to be checking in with themselves and tracking progress each week or each month and updating that, because that gives the team that's catering around them the ability to tweak and adjust their strategy, then you're going to get more engagement. It has to be more centered on the person's journey as opposed to expecting them to knowledge drop or share to the larger group or ask questions to the larger group. If it's truly unique to their customer success pathway, then there's a higher incentive for them to use it consistently because they're already paying, was it like $1,000 a month or something for higher ticket? I don't know what your price point is. But that's, yeah, it's more good. No, you're good.
Well,
That's
that
fine.
brings up a good point, though,
Yeah, yeah.
too. Is like, if you, like, for me anyway, if I have a paid space, and now my VIP is different because it's low ticket, right? But like, I have a high ticket program that's just one-on-one coaching, and they get automatic access to VIP and calls and all of that. But like, what they're paying for is their access to me and the fact that I can give them exactly the next step they need on the journey that they're specifically on, and they don't ever come to the group stuff, and that's okay, right? And my high ticket group is just a payment processor. Like, everything else is taken care of via DMs and things like that. And like, even when I had the low ticket group separate, before we had tiers, right? That group was mainly just for calls, and yes, there was some classroom extra stuff, and like for very specific kinds of questions we would do those, or like if I was like asking like what's the next guest speaker we should have, but I purposefully kept all of the engagement in the free space on purpose. And so then when tiers came out, it was I still would like a separate category where the owner can, post and, whatever. I will put that plug in there. But like, it was a much easier transition for me to mash those two together. And then the engagement just stays in the free. Because to me, the more somebody pays, the less it's more about engagement, because they're paying for access and for speed. Right. Rather, and like you said, those people are going and using the tool and things like that. And if they're happy and your LTV is great, maybe that's not where you focus, that, oh, I want more engagement. Maybe it's more in the freemium space so that it gets them warmed up and plugged in a little bit better, so they ascend quicker to your premium or your VIP tier, and then, move up from there. And if they want to come back and like chat and hang out later, like as they're up there, like, great. But if not, that's not as big of a deal, right? Because they've been equipped, they've paid for that access kind of thing. Whereas like with free, like the engagement is kind of the exchange almost for the benefit you provide, right? If you are able to incorporate the engagement in a way that also gets them their small wins and gets them plugging in with other people along the way.
I think what you guys are saying is super. What comes back to that depends on your own community, right? It's totally up to like your unique situation. Because in the paid high ticket, we don't care about engagement because they come in, they paid, they're getting the thing they want that gets them access to the other software that gets them all the stuff they need. And then in there is where they have access to the calendar to book other calls and do that stuff. So the classrooms or the community tab's not really super important there. But then in the other one, in the freemium, like, we want engagement. It's a business. We want us to rank top 30 in the money category would be awesome. Get better on discovery, get more school organic network traffic. Fantastic. Every schooler's dream. But then that community that's positioned to do that, we try to do accountability. Like, I've tried a few different things, and it's just figuring out what it is that member coming in actually wants. Whereas in the paid community, people are like, no, we want people to be more engaging and talking, communicating. But there's just that few handful of them that are actually using Skool because everyone else is so busy elsewhere. So I like what Joe said about like creating a status post or something. It's like that's part of the onboarding is we get them to do an introduction post, right? So buffing that out a little bit more so it's something they come back to, I think, is a great idea. That's where I'm curious, harping on that accountability thing. I think accountability as like a broad thing is something that's been tried in many communities, many different ways. What's the method? Like, again, I think it comes down to what Joe was saying, like, what is the payoff on that? Like, for me to be accountable, to post, to comment, to talk to this other person, how does it help me improve my experience? Like, what is the benefit to me there, right? So I think that's the major question to be answered. Setting that aside, what are ways you've seen on Skool that have worked when you try to hold members accountable to each other or to a challenge or something? Like posting, commenting, like, again, the tangible methods, and the why, that abstract thing, we got to figure out.
Don't call it accountability.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Try a different word. That's just my 2 cents. But also, what's a cookie? right? So like I've watched iterations like you were talking about Blitz earlier. I was, one of the first captains in Rainbow Games, which was like the beginning iteration of what is now Blitz in that space. And it was all about leaderboard status. But I was paired with people that had never posted, never commented, were never on the leaderboard, and all of that. Now I was top of the leaderboard, so I get why they did that. But at the same time, like that seems almost impossible for somebody who's never commented or posted or anything to even think about getting placing on a leaderboard in school, right? So like you have to figure out a way to, yes, you want the engagement for your space, you want the discovery ranking and la, but you have to tie it into a tangible small win or something that they desire. And if to sweeten the pot, maybe you add a free month of VIP or a free month of premium or whatever, right? And also, we're really good at like overcomplicating the things. I talked about that, I think, the earlier. It's like that challenge that I ran in April was like way too much for my people, way too much. Great thing is, I used it all to create this bot that is now one of the favorite things in my space. But then I learned, right? Like I need to make it more simple. And like the challenges that we run, like I rotate 3 through, they're not even specifically around building school or business, but it's helping them reframe their mindset almost. I don't call it mindset. Like one's moments of mana, joy juice, like something that you noticed in your day that you really loved, like that brought a smile to your face, right? And then another month it's what is something that you've done for somebody else that brought them joy. This month it's been what's the one new thing, whether how small or how big, the new thing that you're trying today, that you're dipping your toes into, right? So like it seems really surface level, right? Stuff like it has nothing to do with business. But like focusing on the good things really helps you when you're in the messy middle of building shit and you feel like everything's going wrong, and being able to create joy in somebody else's life. Like I work with a lot of like holistic peeps and things like that. Like we want to make change in the world. We want to impact other people's lives for the better. Right. And then the trying something new, like entrepreneurship is all about, like we've heard lots of bigwigs talk about, you jump out of an airplane and you have to build the parachute on the way down. Right. So you have to be willing to dip your toes into trying new things and pushing those growth edges ever so slightly. And as to sweeten the pot, like the first few times I ran it, it was like whoever is most consistent, which is really hard in a group full of mostly neurospicy folks, you get a one-on-one call with me at the end of the month, right? That you can claim. And like those are high value in my space or for whatever reason. But then this go round, they get a free month of VIP. So they get to come in and taste what it's like to go through the weekly calls and have that accountability, right? Through the messy middle and all of that. And they get to see it. And maybe it lands to where they decide they want to keep going after the fact, which is an extra bonus for me. But also that's less stress for me to add somebody to a group call than it is to, find the time for the one-on-one call and things like that, even though I love them. Right. So like maybe find an extra cookie, but definitely you have to focus it on them first and figure out how to do the engagement part. And the other part is like the first time I ran a challenge, I was making posts every day for them to comment under because it's easier entry and easier for people to comment on my post because they get a notification, they get a reminder. Oh, I need to do this. Right. But now we've moved to, I give them a post that I pin for a while, and I actually pin it to my Start Here module, that last page I told you about. But they make their own posts, and they have their own change call up, kind of like Joe was talking about when you were talking about, Pat, where they come every day. It takes them 1 minute to drop their thing, and then out they go. But oftentimes when they've dropped that thing, then they're also in the space. They're like, oh, yeah, let me check out and see what else is going on. And I also prompt them on the thing that I pin. It's like, don't forget to check out other people's too, right? Like just a simple nudge. And then they start commenting on each other and like cheering each other on. And like, so it does create that engagement, but I don't say this is the metric that I need you to hit so that you can be in qualifying, whatever, like, so there's ways to do it without making it directly tied to the leaderboard, unless that's what you want. It depends on what you want for your space, right?
Find their cookie. That was Sarah's 3-minute spiel boiled down to a few words, is find their cookie.
Pretty much. and one that you don't feel is like a Nick thing for you, right? Like make it as simple for you as well, like to deliver. Like if you can do one-on-one calls, great. If you can do a month or 2 weeks free of this, that's something that's valuable, then great, right? Like figure out what that is that's beneficial, really beneficial for them, but also isn't going to add a lot more to your plate where you're like, okay, now what do I have to do? Like, we don't need to add more, especially if you're in the messy middle of building. You don't need to add more onto your plate on top of everything else.
When I think too, like what you said, like not in a rude way, I don't really care about booking a one-on-one with you. But I'm not like the ICP in your community going around and doing all this stuff necessarily, right? So that doesn't necessarily matter. But in our I have so many specific examples about like we've run a leaderboard challenge over the month to engagement. Nobody would care about the prize that was won on the other side. So it is really a focus it on them, which has been this whole conversation is how to create engagement and value and blah, blah, blah. It's just focus on the member, your unique member for your community, figure out what they want and keep them first at the center of all those decisions. And that kind of solves that engagement part for you all the way from 10 members up to 10,000. It's just a matter of taking it and doing the different steps at each time. I did schedule an hour for this call. I want to be respectful of you guys' time. But Jazz hasn't said anything, and I want to give you guys all an opportunity to add any of your final thoughts on this. I just wanted to end it by reiterating that the engagement cohorts, they work by having a person view your page, your Skool.com/@yourcommunity. That's what tracks as somebody going in there and tracking as a percentage in the engagement cohort. That's how that one works. When someone likes, comments, posts, or votes on a poll, that's considered an activity, which increases your discovery rank. And then what other engagement? I don't think there's any other engagement metrics to really care about or worry about. It is really those two. Someone visiting the page and then taking those 4 actions. That'll get you increased on discovery. So that is kind of that's the mathematical hard science behind engagement and what we talked about today. But did you guys have any more tips or tricks you wanted to add for the fluff of actually getting it to happen? No one had anything to add? That's great. I want Jazz to say hi, and then we can end the call there.
Hi, friends. Hi, friends. If I could probably add, I'll take it back to health, hey? And I'll take it back to the self. Because how we think is how we feel, and how we feel is how we act. And our acting creates our personality, depending on the personal reality that we're in. So the environments that we are creating in our communities comes from myself. Most of y'all know that I'm an avid meditator, and meditating in Tibetan means to know thyself. So when you're a leader in a community, it's really important to obviously know why it is that you're here and what it is that you're doing. One little tip that I would say, that if you're feeling a little bit stuck in engagement, then I would come back to thyself and think about what it is that you're thinking, because all of the thoughts that we have as ideas that we want to have into fruition will never happen unless we obviously take the action to be the example of what it is that we want other people to be. I have a little bit of a challenge moving from digital money to holistic health, all right? So if you think about the bridge that gap's there, that's what I'm trying to recreate in Digital Warriors, because we're really about digital health now. When we talk about health, we talk about the mind and the body, and we start to get down into the psychological pieces. Now, when we talk about the human psychology, I like to tie that back to customer experience. DigitalWarriors.cx, the CX is about customer experience. That matters. It really matters. From the technological part, from the UI that Joseph was talking about, how we use the tool, why we use the tool, how cool we use it, and how we teach other people to use it in the way that we use it, because that's how we influence and inspire others. But after we put that out there, that's when we want to receive. And what we're talking about is receiving that engagement. We are what we attract. What it is that we put out there, we give back. I won't get as much engagement if I don't participate in my own community. I've seen that. Y'all have seen that have been in there. When I show up, people want to show up. I'm best when you get to see me like this, or if you get to see me when you're sitting right next to me. People want that. That's what they pay for, like Sarah said. My VIP is about you getting to just hang out with me because you like me for some reason, because you've seen a story that was either on Facebook or Instagram, or you jumped on a call and I literally helped you with something that was medically a dis-ease in your body. and it's now gone. Because I'm that walking testimony. I literally have medical evidence to show that you can meditate out a disease, because I got rid of 2 autoimmune diseases. Now, to have that type of information, how do I go out there and say to everybody, this is what it is that life is about, and this is what my school community is about, this is who jazz is, in order to impact and influence and inspire people to want to be a part of who jazz is. Now that part is the part that we all have to think about. So I like that song, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Hey, I'm asking him to change his ways. So healing is never there. Like the prerequisite, I would say, the prerequisite to healing is change. In order for us to get engagement, we're asking somebody to change something in their behavior, whether it is to communicate with you or with somebody else for the first time. We go back to the first time we ever did that. Remember the first school community that you ever went into? Do you remember the first comment that you commented on? Do you remember the first leader that you started to follow in school? Us elite legacy owners and users of Skool have to always remember what it's like at ground zero and understand the steps to go through the bridge to get to where it is that we are, because that's where we want them to be. And my bridge is very, very big. I have put a massive ambition piece in front of me, and y'all have seen me struggle and work through it, but that's what we're here for, right? So that is my $10 note from down here in Australia.
Appreciate it, Jazz. If anyone else had anything else they wanted to add on the topic of engagement, but otherwise, thank you so much for joining me today, friends, and thanks for everyone for watching.
Bye, guys. Have a great week.
Peace.